Sorry to keep you waiting!
You said it, Pit, so let's not waste any more time and get right to it. So from everything shown off of Super Smash Bros. Wii U and 3DS so far, we can see both versions of the game will play extremely similar to past games in the series. In fact, you can see just how similar in this gameplay demonstration of the Wii U version from E3, which reveals that the basic gameplay remains unchanged. You're still, of course, battling to knock your opponents out of the arena by increasing their damage counter, causing them to fly farther with each hit. And it's pretty clear that the characters will handle in much the same way as they have before, as we can see them jump around, attack, shield, roll, which still grants invincibility, as well as attack while getting up from a ledge, much like before. But each game in the series usually features some slight tweaks, and this one's likely no exception. For instance, though it can be tough to tell from just watching the gameplay, the game's creator, Masahiro Sakurai, has confirmed that the game's overall speed will lie somewhere between the fast-paced GameCube version and the slower-paced Wii one. Now, besides the obvious upgrade to high-definition graphics, in the Wii U version at least, there have been a few tweaks to the visuals overall too, such as how both versions now feature a far brighter and less washed-out look compared to Brawl. They've also added a visual swipe effect to each attack, making them far more prominent. The HUD itself has also received a few updates, like the spacing. For instance, the timer is now closer to the corner than it was in Brawl, and if you're playing one-on-one, we can see the player's information boxes are now positioned a little further apart so that there's equal space around them. And speaking of those information boxes, the damage counter has received a few tweaks as well. For one, it now features a gradient color scheme instead of the flat colors of the previous games. And this time it starts off with a golden hue that becomes increasingly golden up through the 70% range. But as soon as it crosses the 80% threshold, it turns a bright red color. This, of course, is similar to past Smash Bros. Games, but with one key difference. It turns red far sooner now than it did in Brawl. And since being in the red means you're in the danger zone, this suggests that it might be easier to KO opponents at lower percentage levels than in past games. And on the topic of KOing, it appears that the trail left behind by a player being knocked out of the arena will now match the color of the character who performed the KO, which is a nice touch. Also, it looks like all the returning characters will be getting a brand new portrait, but it appears they'll retain the same icon as before, at least if Mario's here is any indication. And speaking of returning things, obviously time battles are back too, as shown here. And we're pretty sure stock and coin battles will be back as well, since they've been in every game since their introduction. But one feature that may not be returning is a slow motion effect at the end of each battle, as we can see it's missing here. Of course, it's possible it just hadn't been implemented in time for the E3 demo. Then there's a winner screen here, which could be one of two things. It could be a new screen that appears before the true victory screen that's been with the series since the very start, or it's just a placeholder in the E3 demo until they implement the full victory screen. Okay, so clearly Smash Bros. Wii U and 3DS are sticking pretty close to the series' roots, but how much do these two games differ from each other? Now we already know the core of each game will basically be identical, as it's been confirmed that the same roster will be shared between the two games. And we can see that the characters will apparently play the same too. Although some arenas will appear in both games, such as Battlefield, which has appeared in every game of the series in some form, many will be exclusive to each version. In fact, Sakurai has even said that the 3DS version will place a larger emphasis on levels inspired by handheld games, while the Wii U version will focus on console-based arenas, which is pretty interesting. So let's go ahead and break down all the arenas shown off so far, and let's start with a battle arena. And what else is there to say? It's Battle Arena. I mean, it's built just as it's always been, with one main platform and three smaller ones above. But what has changed is the background. Whereas it was just a boring field in Brawl, it now features a ton of floating islands. But even the background looks different depending on if you're playing on the 3DS or Wii U. While the Wii U one also showcases some pretty impressive architecture built upon those islands, the 3DS one downplays the islands in favor of large mountains that protrude through the distant clouds. Now what's really impressive about the Wii U versions is the amount of detail, such as the grass that blows in the wind. And did you notice the banners in the background of the Smash Bros. Logo? Finally, if we fast forward that gameplay clip from earlier, we can see that it still retains a time-changing element of its Brawl appearance, where the setting changes from morning, to day, to afternoon, to dusk, and then to nightfall in just minutes. And we can tell this will be the case for the 3DS version too, based on a couple of clips that show different times of day. Alright, and that covers it for Battlefield, which is the only arena that we know for sure will appear in both games. So everyone that follows from this point could be exclusive to the system they were shown for. And let's start with the 3DS arenas that we know of first, such as this one that appears to be from Super Mario 3D Land based on the spiked pillars and similar green platforms that were featured in that game. Now as you can see, the arena appears to be made up of 3 moving platforms, and if you look close you can see they're on a track. So those spikes aren't moving closer, you're actually riding the platforms toward the spikes, and when one gets close it'll rise up, destroying whichever part of the platform it touches. But what happens when you reach the end of the track? Well, we're guessing that Warp Pipe there might be involved on some level, especially when we take into account that this is actually a traveling stage. But how do we know this? because a few months ago, this image was posted to the official Smash Bros. Website, and at first, it appeared to be a brand new arena based on the new Super Mario Bros. Series. However, Sakurai also posted in the Miiverse that this stage is a traveling one, and he went on to say that it comes right after the scene in the first trailer where Bowser gets blasted from below, which is this scene here. So it's pretty clear that these two seemingly different levels are actually one and the same, which suggests that the level may actually be more a celebration of Mario's handheld games in general, or at least the 3DS ones, more than it is about any specific game by itself. Now let's look at the screenshot a little more closely, which we can tell obviously resembles World 1-1 in New Super Mario Bros. 2, based on the multicolored blocks and the castle in the background, both of which match that game perfectly. Although the donut lift platforms here are new, so it's not an exact recreation. And as you might recall, those same platforms drop almost as soon as you step on them, which should add some interesting dynamics to the level. Furthermore, it appears you'll be able to hit the question blocks here, which means they'll likely spawn items as in past Smash Bros. Games. But there is something new here that wasn't in the original level. The arrow sign pointing right here. And because this is a traveling stage, we're guessing this likely means you'll have to keep up with the screen as it scrolls to the right, like the Mushrooming Kingdom in Brawl. Adding to this is the fact that Peach's castle is on the right here, whereas in New Super Mario Bros. 2 and most other games in that series, it's on the left. So perhaps it starts on the right so you can actually see it scroll by. Now another screenshot released on the Smash Bros. Website shows what appears to be another side-scrolling section, complete with red and blue blocks that we're guessing spin when you jump on them. But if we look to the background, we can see the same landmasses in the water as in the clip from the trailer, suggesting that this side-scrolling portion comes immediately before the platform riding section. So clearly there's a lot to this level, and we can't help but wonder how much more there still might be. Moving on, another new arena shown in the trailer is based on Nintendogs, which appears to take place in a home-like setting with a dog running around in the background. And by the way, did you notice the TV in the background actually displays different images? That's a neat touch. Now the action itself appears to take place on a children's toy set, and we're guessing you'll be able to drop through that wooden platform based on another scene that shows the characters beneath it. But aside from that, there doesn't appear to be much else going on. But because the arena is constructed out of removable pieces, we wouldn't be surprised if the dog might interact with it in some way, such as scampering through it occasionally, rearranging the entire arena in different configurations. The next 3DS battlefield is literally an arena, in the form of Ferox's Arena from Fire Emblem Awakening. Although, while the battleground is completely bare in that game, we can see it will now feature at least a few wooden platforms, most of which are suspended by chains. And actually, based on the screenshot posted to the Smash Bros. Website, we can see that same arena, but this time with a pair of statues holding some platforms, which likely means the stage will transform throughout the battle, similar to the Pokemon Stadium arenas from Smash Bros. Melee and Brawl. Our next arena is the Overworld from Spirit Tracks, which is just one of two 3DS Zelda arenas here. This one actually takes place on top of a moving train that's being driven by none other than Toon Link himself. And did you catch this little shrug of his? He clearly doesn't approve of you guys battling on his ride. Now, although the level seems to primarily consist of the engine and two cars, it looks like additional platforms will occasionally be flown in by a pair of crows. And we really wouldn't be surprised if some other trains pull up at some other points to provide even more platforms to play with. In fact, a recent image from the Smash Bros. Website confirms that the bomb trains from Spirit Tracks are back as well, and will pull up from time to time. But will they destroy the train as in the game itself? Or maybe they can be used as a weapon against your opponents? In addition, based on this screenshot from the Smash Bros. Website, it looks like you'll be able to run along the tracks as well. Well, as long as you can keep up, that is, similar to the Big Blue Arena from Smash Bros. Melee. Also, although we only see a single background here, we can't help but wonder if you might travel past some famous landmarks from the game. Now, the second Zelda arena is a little unusual. As you can see, it's Gerudo Valley from Ocarina of Time. And we know this is Gerudo Valley by the fact that there's a bridge next to a waterfall, with the Carpenter's Tent on the left, and we can even see Gerudo Fortress in the background, complete with the target training area, which is a really cool detail. Although it does seem the bridge has seen some renovations, and a pair of new platforms on either side. Oh, and if we look at the screenshot from the official Smash Bros. Website, we can see that the entire area can actually catch fire too, which appears to also knock out the bridge, similar to the bridge of Elden Stage from Super Smash Bros. Brawl. So that should change the gameplay up quite a bit, at least until the bridge regenerates, as we suspect it will, just as it did in the bridge of Elden Stage. But the big question is, how did the fire start? After all, that never happens in the Ocarina of Time. Is it caused by fire-based attacks like Mario's fireballs? Or maybe it just happens spontaneously if it takes too much damage. Or perhaps something in the background sets it off, again like in the Bridge of Elden Stage. Okay, that's enough about the bridge, because I know what you're thinking. Wait a second, I thought the 3DS arenas were supposed to be mostly based on the handheld games, but wasn't Ocarina of Time a console game? And I promise never to impersonate you guys again. Anyways, yes, it was in fact a console game, but it was re-released on the Nintendo 3DS in the form of Ocarina of Time 3D not too long ago, so it still kind of fits in, but on the technicality we'll grant. Okay, and that wraps it up for all the 3DS arenas that we see battles actually take place in during the trailer. But we're not done yet, because there's this short scene that shows Mario jumping up from an underground ruins type area into a forest, then into the sky. Now this is interesting for a few reasons, such as, how is Mario moving in that way? Is this a cutscene? It's pretty clearly not a battle after all. But though it may not be a battle, it does seem to be a level of some kind, as the various platforms throughout strongly hint at. And if it is, how does it work? Is it one giant arena like Hyrule Castle? Or maybe it's a side-scrolling level with multiple paths, similar to the single-player adventure mode from Super Smash Bros. Melee and Brawl. And after all that, what is this level even themed to? Well, those underground ruins did remind us of the ones from Donkey Kong Country Returns, which of course was recently just re-released for the Nintendo 3DS, so it would fit in perfectly. Especially since when DK first appears in the game's trailer, it's from within an environment clearly from that same game, as the pillars in the background give away. So it would be odd if he didn't have an arena based on that same game. And that covers it for all the 3DS arenas shown in the trailer, but the official Smash Bros. Website has revealed screenshots showing one more. As you can see, the screen shows off a rather dark arena, which we know is based on Kid Icarus Uprising thanks to Sakurai's description that mentioned Viridi, the goddess of nature, which was featured prominently in that game. But beyond that, we can tell this level is specifically based on the battlefield arena from Chapter 11. Now we don't have much to go off of here, but we wonder if it might actually deform throughout the battle as it falls victim to bombardment. In fact, another image taken from the 3DS game shows off one of Viridi's reset bombs going off, so it seems they'll play a role here too. Okay, so that finally covers it for the 3DS arenas. Now let's take a look at the ones that were shown for the Wii U. And first up is the Zelda arena, clearly based on the town of Skyloft from Skyward Sword. Now between the few clips shown in the trailer, we can see that you'll actually battle in several different parts of town, such as near the bazaar, on the Plaza Tower, in the residential district near the graveyard, and by the goddess statue. But how is this possible? Simple, you'll ride on platforms from location to location, just like in Mario Sunshine's Isle of Fina level in Smash Bros. Brawl. And if we had to guess, we wouldn't be surprised if the platforms also make stops at Knight Academy, the Waterfall, and maybe, just maybe, Fun Fun Island. And since it is so similar to Isle of Fino in concept, then you can expect the order you'll visit the locations in to be random. And there appears to be a ton of detail in the background here too, such as various islands in the distance, loft wings flying about, and even the beams of light shining through the clouds that mark entry points to the ground below. And because of those beams of light, we can't help but wonder if you might visit some other locations on the surface too. Next up, we have a new Animal Crossing arena, which at first glance appears to be extremely similar to the one in Brawl, what with its large platform hovering in place over town. But there are some key differences. Most notably is the fact that you're no longer confined to just the town, as it appears you'll now battle it out above the city from the GameCube version of Animal Crossing as well. But how exactly will this work? The main platform appears to be stationary after all, so it seems unlikely you'll fly between the two locations. Instead, we're guessing you might randomly start to one or the other each time you start the level, similar to the Mushrooming Kingdom stage in Brawl, where you fought either above ground or below. Another difference is that instead of having just one additional platform floating above the main one, there are now two. And in fact, it seems they might behave differently depending on which portion of the level you're in. If you're in the city, it appears the two platforms will move horizontally away and then toward each other. But in the town clip, the right platform moves up and down, while the platform on the left appears to remain stationary. So either the movement of the platforms changes throughout the course of a battle, or is dependent on which portion of the level you're in. And that's not the only thing that appears to be dependent on where in the level you are, as the bystanders watching the brawl appear to change as well. In the village scenes, we can see that Wendell, the walrus, Sahara, the camel, and Pele the pelican are all present. And they also all happen to be people that you would actually meet in the village if you were actually playing city folk. But if you were to visit the city, then you would expect to find Red the fox, Gracie the giraffe, and Dr. Shrunk, the, doctor, just as you do when battling in the city portion of the Animal Crossing stage. Now in every clip and screenshot released so far, the characters in each of these areas are always the same, which might suggest that the bystanders won't randomly change as they did in the original game, which kinda makes sense if they're location specific as we think they are. Now you might recall that the time of day in Brawl's Animal Crossing level also changed depending on the actual time of day in real life, just as it did in the Animal Crossing games themselves. But in every piece of media so far released for Smash Bros. Wii U and 3DS, not only is the sky always bright blue, but the clock in the city scenes also appears to be perpetually stuck at 1:03 PM. But we'd be very surprised if that feature didn't return, so we'll chalk it up to the game being in an early state. Plus, the fact that Pele the Pelican is here actually supports the idea that the time-based mechanic is back, as she appeared when only playing during the daytime in Animal Crossing, whereas she'd be replaced at night by her more disgruntled sister. Now there's another character in the background that we haven't yet mentioned, a gyroid. And in one of the released screenshots, we can see the villager riding one too. Is that the same one? Can anyone ride him? Or is it simply one of the villager's moves, or perhaps an item that can be collected? Also, did you notice a bus sign in both portions of the level? Is that just for decoration, or might it be a hint that a bus might roll through on occasion too, similar to the Earthbound Honor level in Smash Bros. Melee? Although the fact that, we're above street level might make that a bit difficult. Finally, as we sort of hinted at, the level appears to be based entirely on city folk for the GameCube. But when the villager receives a summons letter at the very start of the trailer, not only is music that's playing from the original GameCube game, but we can also see that Isabelle from New Leaf on the 3DS is here too. Could this hint at the fact that elements outside of just city folk might be included as well? Okay, and that's plenty enough about the Animal Crossing arena. But now let's take a look at the new Wii Fit themed arena, which appears to take place in a gym, complete with a treadmill on the right and a giant wall-sized mirror, which is a first for a Smash Bros. Arena. Now we haven't seen much of it yet, but there doesn't appear to be much to see. Besides the main floor, there's really only 3 stationary platforms floating above. Though if you look close, you can see they're all actually giant balance boards. So maybe they'll react to your character's weight in some way. And speaking of balance boards, the anthropomorphic one from the games can be seen hanging out along the sidelines. And while we're on the topic of workout centers, another level that's featured prominently in the trailer is this boxing arena. And like the gym, there doesn't appear to be too much going on here based on what we've seen, with the main action of course taking place inside the boxing ring itself. Though based on this clip with Mario and Bowser jumping in from the sides, it seems they might be able to fight outside the ring too. So as you might have noticed, the whole level looks kind of generic, what with the Smash Bros. Logo plastered on both the side and the floor of the ring itself. And boxing rings aren't really a known staple of Nintendo games, except for the final boss fights in many of the Kirby games and of course Punch-Out! And as it turns out, this arena may actually have more in common with Punch-Out! Than the first glance. So let's go down the list. Oh, and a quick shout out to Kane High Wind 1 over at GameFAQs for uncovering many of these details. So first, let's take a look at the ring itself. The color of the ropes, going from top to bottom, are blue, yellow, white, and red, which matches perfectly with a major circuit ring of Punch-Out! For the Wii. Now let's take a look at that Smash logo. Did you notice the entire thing sitting on top of a large star with leafy decorations on the sides and 3 more stars beneath? All of these details match up with the logos featured in the rings of Punch-Out! Wii exactly. And if you look even closer, the logo even has a ribbon across the top, just like the World Circuit logo, again of Punch-Out! Wii. And even outside the ring, we can see some similarities, such as the dot matrix screens featured in the background, which have long had a prominent role in the Punch-Out! Series, even on the Wii version's title screen. So could this actually be a Punch-Out! Arena in disguise, or is it merely serving as inspiration? Another brand new arena is one that takes place in front of Wily's castle from Mega Man 2. Like some of the others, we haven't seen a ton of it, but it appears the action will take place primarily on one long platform, though there are smaller moving platforms that follow a track, which are also from Mega Man 2. And in fact, we can see that the path of those tracks will actually change throughout the match. Now if we take a look at that main platform, we can see that it appears to actually consist of several parts, such as the gray metallic platforms on the sides and in the middle. They almost look like they can move up and down throughout the match. Finally, we know that the Yellow Devil from the original Mega Man will appear in the game in some form as well, as shown here. But is he a stage hazard or something closer to an assist trophy like in Brawl? Next up we have Pyrosphere, taken from Metroid Other M, where you fought Ridley. This level appears to consist of a single large platform with smaller ones floating above. And according to Sakurai's message that accompanied that image, it seems Ridley will actually make random appearances here too. Could that be why there's a crack in the wall here? But the main question is, will Ridley just be a background detail or will she actually be a stage hazard? And speaking of the background, we can see that lava appears to be pouring in from the wall, and another screenshot from above shows a lava pool below. So we think it's pretty clear lava will play some role during the gameplay itself. Maybe it'll rise up and cause tidal waves similar to the Norfair Arena from Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Next up is a Wii U Arena based on Pilot Wings, which is a first for the series. In this one, we can see that you'll alternate between at least 2 different airplanes, a red one and a yellow one, as they take you on a tour of Wuhu Island from Pilot Wings Resort. And based on the screenshot, it appears you'll have to transfer between the 2 planes at various points. And it looks like you'll even ride them through the aerial rings the series is famous for. Now there's a couple of interesting things about this stage. For one, Wuhu Island isn't even a Pilot Wings exclusive feature, first making its appearance in Wii Fit, followed by Wii Sports Resort. But then there's the fact it's also from a handheld Pilot Wings game. So what's it doing in the Wii U version? Particularly as Pilot Wings has historically been a console-based series. Well, a few other screenshots might explain why. Here we can see a flat island that appears to have been ripped right out of the Super Nintendo version of Pilot Wings. And in a zoomed out view, we can see it is in fact part of that very same arena. So not only is this level a tour of Pilot Wings Resort, but the original game as well. But that still leaves one Pilot Wings game unaccounted for, Pilot Wings 64. We can only hope that there's still one more island just off camera that might be from that game. Another new Wii U arena shown off is Windy Hill, based on the same level from Sonic Lost World. Now we don't know a ton about the stage yet, but we do know it'll feature a giant turning windmill that's so large, apparently won't fit entirely on the screen. So we can see this being a pretty dangerous stage hazard, particularly if you get knocked onto a platform as it spins off screen. We can also see that the entire level appears to have a gentle curve, just like how it does in the actual game. Then we have a new Pikmin arena, but this time it appears to be inspired by Pikmin 3, as indicated by the SS Drake ship appearing here. And not only that, but it's clearly based on the Garden of Hope level, as it shares many of the same landmarks, such as the bridge made from tiles here. Then we have this tin can platform, and we're guessing that platform, like the game itself, is connected to a second one via a pulley, which likely means those platforms will rise and drop depending on how much weight is on each one. It's probably similar to the Mario Bros. Stage in the original Smash Bros. Finally, the latest arena we've learned about is one based on Super Mario Galaxy, and more specifically, the first planet you visited in the game. And we can tell this based on the grass texture, the tree stumps, and most importantly, the little blue house here. But interestingly, those trees are all new, as they weren't on the original planet. We can also see that a pair of platforms, one red, the other yellow, have been added. Now if we turn our attention to the background, we can see several interesting details, such as an airship. And we can't help but wonder if it might launch bullet bills at you during the course of battle, much as they do in Super Mario Galaxy. Then there's a spaceship Mario, which of course was the main mode of transportation in Mario Galaxy 2, which means we won't just be seeing Mario Galaxy 1 references here. And in another shot, we get an even closer look at it, and we can see it's being piloted by Lubba, and he's joined by a few other Lumas as well. Now in that same shot, we can see yet another planet too, and this one seems suspiciously similar to the one that you fought Dino Piranha on in Mario Galaxy. Could he be making an appearance too? Finally, we can also see the Toad Brigade's Shroom ship in the background of this one screen. And while we're on this screen, did you notice how the airship appears to be much farther away here than in the other screenshot? Yep, it looks like those background objects won't remain stationary and will in fact move throughout the battle. Okay, so that about covers it for the way the level looks, but what about how it plays? Because Mario Galaxy placed a heavy emphasis on its unique gravity mechanics, and it appears this arena will too. Because, according to Sakurai, the center of gravity actually emanates from the center of the planet, meaning if you get hit while on the edge, you'll shoot off diagonally. But we can't help but wonder how this might affect other things too, like projectiles. Well, we think we might have some idea. In this screenshot, we can see Mario deflecting Samus's charge shot. But did you notice how much lower Samus is compared to Mario? Assuming she fired it without jumping, this suggests the projectiles may actually curve along the planet's surface. Heck, that even appears to be the case, as the projectile appears to be slightly lower than Mario after he deflects it. This could go a long way in making this level feel really unique. Phew! And that finally covers it for all the arenas. Now if there's any one part of a Smash Bros. Game that matters most, it's definitely the character selection. Now from what we can tell, most of the characters returning from Brawl haven't seemed to have changed much at all. This includes Mario, Luigi, Link, Toon Link, Donkey Kong, Fox, Olimar, Pikachu, Marth, and Sonic. But some of the others have received a few noticeable tweaks, such as Bowser, who looks slightly softer in appearance and stands more upright. He also appears to punch opponents rather than clawing at them for his side smash. On top of that, he's now much more mobile than before, now able to actually run rather than sliding along the ground like a tank. And he's also been outfitted with new sidekick maneuver. All of this could indicate that Bowser's slightly faster than his previous incarnations. Meanwhile, Pit's moveset has been updated to better reflect his new abilities from Kid Icarus Uprising. This includes replacing his mirror shield with the Guardian Orbiters and adding the upper dash arm to his arsenal. Now whether the upper dash arm replaces one of his normal moves or has become his new upper smash is difficult to say. Next up is Samus, who has had her suit updated to reflect its appearance in Metroid Other M. But could this change of suit also reflect a change in moves? While most of them do seem to be the same, Samus' side smash is now slightly faster and emits an explosion upon impact. Now while Kirby hasn't changed much, it does seem he has a new form for his down B move, in that he can now transform into a classic Thwomp instead of the brick style one from Mario 64. However, another pink character, Peach, seems to have quite a few changes to her moveset, although it could be possible that all of these are just existing moves with an updated look, such as this attack, which has her now using her crown to bash opponents. But it looks like she may only be able to use it in the air. Her up smash also now creates a pink ribbon around her, which may increase the range of its attack, or at least make its range a little more clear. And then of course we have the new character, starting with the Animal Crossing villager. His moveset includes the net, which according to Sakurai is one of his grapples, and a shovel that can get enemies stuck much like Donkey Kong's side special attack in Brawl. But this time it seems it'll work on both sides of the villager. One of his more unusual moves is that he can pick up projectiles of all kinds and pocket them for later use, which is pretty rad. In addition, he performs a dive while holding a flower pot, which we're guessing is a running attack. And speaking of plants, it looks like he can attack by planting seeds and chopping down the tree that grows afterward. Yeah, this guy is pretty weird. Another move involves a slingshot, which we're guessing is a special, and we'd say the same applies to his fireworks move too, though it's possible this is an up or down smash. We also see some of his normal moves, like an up attack that uses a stick, a side attack that uses an umbrella, and the ability to pull weeds, which we suspect is a down attack. Oh, and it appears he can materialize bowling balls too, which of course can be used to attack. And his recovery is particularly unusual, as he uses two balloons, kinda like in Balloon Fight. And we're guessing he may only be able to perform a few arm flaps before he tires out, kinda like Kirby. And it's also possible for other players to pop these balloons, as we see Fox doing in one screen. Okay, now as we mentioned before, the villager is seen in one screenshot riding a gyroid. Could this be one of his special moves, like Luigi's side special? Moving on, Mega Man looks to be a true callback to his NES days, with his 8-bit appearance represented in full 3D. The way he moves, the way he jumps, in fact every motion is almost exactly like his NES games. This even extends to his death animation, as blue energy splashes outward when he gets knocked out. And this is actually the first time in a Smash Bros. Game that a character has had a unique death animation, so we wonder if there might be more too. The Mega Man pulls his moveset from many of the Robot Master abilities that he's gained over the years. There's a Super Arm from the original Mega Man, the Metal Blades, Crash Bomber, and Leaf Shield from Mega Man 2. Then there's the Hard Knuckle and Spark Shock from Mega Man 3, the Flame Blast from Mega Man 6, the Slash Claw from Mega Man 7, and the Flame Sword from Mega Man 8. Additionally, he can use a standard move such as shooting his Mega Buster, powering up the Charge Shot, using a slide maneuver, or even using his Mega Upper from the Marvel vs. Capcom series. Now what's interesting is how many of these moves are worked into his normal moveset while not becoming specials. The Super Arm is his throw, the Spark Shock looks to be his up smash, while the Flame Blast is his down smash, the Charge Shot is his side smash, and the Rush Coil is his recovery. Now we do know that Mega Man doesn't appear to be much of a physical attacker outside of a few moves. However, his Mega Buster can be used at any time, even while moving. The Metal Blades can also be thrown in all 8 directions, just like the original game, though they can be caught and used as an item. In addition, the Crash Bomber acts as a time bomb and can be stuck to the other fighters. However, if they're able to touch another fighter, the bomb will be transferred to them instead. It basically works just like Brawl's Gooey Bomb. The hard knuckle also seems to have a meteor effect, with just how quickly it sends Mega Man's opponent down. Now both the Slash Claw and Flame Sword appear to be aerial attacks, and though the Leaf Shield can be used in the air too, it can also be thrown. Oh, and Mega Man's Slide can even be used to dodge projectiles. Yep, Mega Man's just plain versatile. Okay, that leaves just one character left, Wii Fit Trainer. But you know what? Since I know it's going to be Derek's favorite character, even if he doesn't know it yet, I'll let him handle this one. You're welcome, Derek.
Wait, what? Since when? Ah, jeez. Anyway, while the Wii Fit Trainer seems to be a really odd choice at first, she actually has a very interesting moveset. That's because she's an absolute health nut and every action she takes relates back to fitness in some way. And that can be seen even in her announcement trailer as she goes through several yoga poses like the warrior, the arm and leg lift, the tree, the single leg extension, and the gate. In fact, she's so health conscious that she likely does push-ups as her taunt, and perhaps even a breathing exercise as we can see by the timed circle. Or could this even be a tricky way of recovering a small bit of health if you time the button presses correctly? But she's not limited to just yoga poses as we see her using hula hoops, which seem to act as her recovery since she moves upward when using them. She even spawns a Wii Fit branded soccer ball for some long distance attacks. And just like Mega Man's Metal Blades, other players can intercept it and use it themselves like Mario here. One of her aerial attacks also seems to have a bit more range than you'd initially think since it hits both in front of and behind her. We also get to see her final smash, which is simply called Wii Fit. It spawns dozens of Wii Fit activities all color-coded at her opponents, knocking them away. Of course, we've been referring to her as a woman, but it's actually been confirmed that the male Wii Fit Trainer is playable as well. He's simply another skin, much like Wario's two different outfits in Brawl. But that raises the question, doesn't it? Does this mean other characters will have different skins too? Will the Animal Crossing villager have a female form? And could this even extend to all the other characters? I mean, what's to stop them from making Shadow a new Sonic skin, or Louie a new Olimar skin, or even using Fusion Suit Samus's design rather than the suit from Other M? Heck, fan favorite Rosalina could appear as a skin for Peach. In fact, there's a ton of possibilities here that could see many other fan favorites make an appearance, and it's entirely probable that they'd go the extra mile for their voice clips. After all, you can't have the female Wii Fit Trainer's voice come out of the male trainer. Of course, there are still plenty more characters to be announced, both old and new. We have a strong feeling that the original lineup of Super Smash Bros. On the N64 will all return, especially since none of them have missed a game yet. This means that we can definitely expect to hear about the return of Captain Falcon, Jigglypuff, Ness, and Yoshi sometime in the future. Now, with so many Pokemon to choose from, it may seem strange to keep Jigglypuff, but her new fairy typing may add some interesting tweaks to her arsenal like we've seen with many of the other characters. Besides, you can't mess with the classics. Okay, so that's all the other characters, and while you did a great job covering all the levels and those characters, Andre, I gotta say you missed a few fun, if not small details on the characters and other aspects of the game. First of all is that during the fight that was demonstrated during E3, you can see Mega Man use two different moves that haven't been directly mentioned. One seems to be a taunt where he teleports away and appears back exactly where he was before, and the other one shows him using an upwards attack that shoots air. Could this possibly be Airman's air shooter? It doesn't look exactly like that attack, but Sakurai did say that they were pulling a majority of his moves from Mega Man 2 since it was the most popular. And of course there's Top Man's top spin, which may be a running attack. There's also the question of Olimar. Throughout all the screenshots we've seen the red, blue, yellow, purple, and white Pikmin, but no sign of the flying and rock Pikmin from the newest game. Will they possibly make an appearance since a few of the other past characters have had new moves added as well? There's also design elements that are worth mentioning, such as Marth's look being tweaked to better match his more recent appearances in games like Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon, or Luigi's jump now including his classic kicking feet animation. But the most striking redesign is the one found in the 3DS version of Smash Bros. As you've probably noticed, the Wii U version is going for a realistic approach, whereas the 3DS version is actually going for a more stylized one, with a thick outline surrounding the characters. It's actually reminiscent of the art style used for the box art of the original Super Smash Bros. Game. But interestingly, Sakurai has confirmed that you'll be able to customize the thickness of those lines as well as disable them completely. Then there are the actual technical differences due to the vast difference in power between the two systems. Take the shadows for instance. While the characters in the Wii U version feature realistic shadows that deform with the environment, the 3DS one features simple circles directly beneath them instead. This visual language extends even further as one of the most recent updates shows that a red-black effect now appears when hit by a strong blow with low health. It seems that a goal of this Smash Bros. Is to make the chaotic battles a bit easier to follow. And like all Smash Bros. Games, that chaos extends into the items that can be used during battle. While not many have been shown so far, there are quite a few to take note of, such as the return of the ray gun. It's been given a slight redesign with the Smash logo appearing in the center of the barrel, though it likely still works the same. The capsules also return with a redesign, this time becoming shorter and thicker. And while we've yet to actually see see one, it's pretty safe to say that the Pokeballs have returned since one of Sakurai's updates shows Xerneas. It's probably not a new character either, since every other time a new character has been shown, the official Smash Bros. Website has been updated. So the Pokeball returns, but what else will make an appearance? Yveltal? Sylveon, maybe some of the popular Unova Pokemon, or even some Mega Evolutions. And this likely indicates that we'll see the return of character trophies from Brawl as well. The final returning item is the Smash Ball, even though we haven't seen one during gameplay. But the evidence is there with both Samus and the Wii Fit Trainer using their final Smash. And of course there's the artwork that accompanies the villager on the Smash Bros. Website. But that doesn't mean there won't be any new items. In fact, we've seen two already. First there's the X-Bomb from Kid Icarus Uprising. It seems to take a bit more forethought than most other bomb items since its explosion is shaped like an X. This means that not only could it hit unsuspecting opponents, but it could also potentially hit you. The second new item is a bomb shaped like a Hocotate ship. When a player uses it, it flies off screen and after an unknown amount of time, drops from the air exploding against whatever it crashes into. This makes it perfect for catching opponents off guard. Okay, we're finally almost done here, but there's still a few details worth mentioning. For one, we get another look at the ever-changing Kid Icarus Uprising stage on the 3DS. This time after Viridia's reset bomb has detonated and taken effect. Sakurai even mentions the boss of Chapter 11, Cragalanche, though it doesn't seem like he'll be appearing as a stage hazard. We've also seen evidence of characters being able to catch each other's projectiles, but it looks like they can be sliced in half in some cases as well. The example shown is Pit slicing one of Samus's normal missiles in half. That means that other sword-wielding characters could do the same. But what about characters that don't have swords? Could those missiles still be destroyed? And is it only missiles that can be destroyed like this? It's an interesting wrinkle that changes up the options available to players. And finally, I have to clarify something Andre said in the video. He called Ridley a she. Of course, Ridley is not female, but male. Now, if you excuse me, I have to go beat that fact into him. Oh, but before that, thank you for watching. If you liked this video, please like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter at GameXplain, and be sure to subscribe for more on Super Smash Bros. And other things gaming too. We promise it won't take another 5 months to do the next Smash analysis.